Mechanicus II just dropped a free demo on Steam and it is absolutely worth firing up the cogigator for. Yes, I did plan that. So you can play for a few hours right now. No server sacrifice is required. This video contains zero spoilers, just updates. I appreciate I'm not funny, but you're still here anyway. You get to play as either the Adeptus Mechanicus, who are basically like robo-priests, but just with way more chrome than like a 90s custom car, or Necrons, who are like undead Terminators, but they've had just a few too many like millennia to get grumpy. Two campaigns, two totally different vibes. It's all turn-based, tactical carnage, shiny new environmental tricks, and terrain shenanigans to just keep you thinking while you mutter like, for the Omnissiah, under your breath. Plus, there's a bit of resource and territory management, because what's a galactic war without some good old-fashioned spreadsheet strategy? Now, I have to start off by saying that Mechanicus has one of the best gaming soundtracks that I have ever heard. So this game has been a long time coming for me. Casino Games and Bulwark Studios, they have basically just dropped a free demo for Warhammer 40,000 Mechanicus II on Steam. That was like, what is it? Hi. Nothing beats a Jet 2 holiday. Nothing beats Mechanicus II. Anyway, I digress. But apparently they've decided that none of us needed sleep this week. So I downloaded this yesterday, which for me is Sunday, but for you will be a totally different day. And I don't know. Anyway, it's landed just before Steam Next Fest, which is definitely a coincidence. It's totally not timed to ride the hype train. No, not at all. Cue the suspicious squint. Anyway, you get a few hours of gameplay to just mess around with, enough to decide whether or not you're still the sort of person who, like I said, says praise the Omnissiah out loud, or if you've just gone full-blown Necron and can't be bothered with flesh anymore. Now, before you even start, there's like a gameplay video just to get you in the mood. It's got some fantastic narrative. Please check it out if you hadn't. But yeah, grab a brew, fire up Steam, and just prepare to lose another weekend to the machine god. Wait. What even is Mechanicus II? What's it even going to be about? So, after what's basically a ridiculously long nap, Vargod finally wakes up, stretches her ancient robo-limbs, and then realises that some Adeptus Mechanicus Muppets have basically set up shop on her planet. Naturally, she's not chuffed about it, so she calls up her Necron murder legions for a bit of exterminators-style spring cleaning. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, we have a guy with a fantastic name, Magos Dominus Faustinius. Now, he gets the world's least relaxing phone call. He's like, now I was born in the 90s, so my phone calls look like this, okay? He's like, oh, hey, mate. Yeah, hi. Remember that planet that you colonized? Well, yeah, turns out it's full of angry space mummies with lasers. And then off he goes, because apparently the machine god doesn't believe in annual leave. Now, what starts as a simple get off my lawn situation, it quickly spirals into a galactic scale nightmare with all sorts of mysterious, probably horrifying third parties showing up just to make things even messier. It's classic 40K. No one's having a good time, but everyone's just pretending they've got it all under control. We have two factions, two campaigns, two totally different ways to ruin someone's day, and one massive question: who are you backing? Is it the metal on metal grudge match, or will you lead the Adeptus Mechanicus, the galaxy's finest techno priests? They're like monks with USB ports. Or Necrons, the galaxy's most irritable skeletons with Wi-Fi. Now, you'll assemble your army, you'll deploy your shiny murder bots, and then you'll throw down in turn-based tactical battles that make even XCOM's commanders start sort of nervously saving scum. Now, each side has got their own toys. They've got their own tricks, they've got their own temperament. So you'll need to master their quirks faster than a guardsman dodging a commissar's side-eye. Now, that's not funny. And this time, the battlefields, they actually matter. The Mechanicus can hunker down behind cover like sensible folk, while the Necrons, being the subtle diplomatic types that they are, they just blow the scenery to bits. And you're not fighting in a few skirmishes either. There's a full-blown planetary turf war, capture territories, juggle resources, and just generally behave like a power-mad space accountant while the fate of the world hangs in the balance. Now, play as the Mechanicus, basically racing against the Dynasty's global reboot, or take the role of the Necrons, waking up cranky after a few thousand years and ready to tell the trespassers to get off your intergalactic lawn. In short, it's kind of like Dawn of War, bear with me, meets chess, if chess had lasers, religion, and crippling moral ambiguity. But what if I didn't even play Mechanicus, I hear you cry? What was it about? If you're crying, I'm sorry. But anyway, Warhammer 40,000 Mechanicus. I mentioned earlier, compared it to XCOM, and that's true because it's kind of like that, but everyone's a religious cyborg with more metal than, Metallica. More metal than Metallica. That works now. It's a turn-based tactical game set in the grimdark universe of, you guessed it, 40k, where optimism died sometime around the Horus Heresy. Now, you play as Magos Dominus Faustinius, who is appearing again, like we talked about just now, in Mechanicus II. Now, he is a high-ranking priest of the machine god, leading your Adeptus Mechanicus forces. Those are the lads who just think that Wi-Fi is like holy. He's leading them into the Necron tomb world of Silver Tenebris. Now, your job, basically you just have to nick as much ancient tech as possible before the galaxy's grumpiest robo-mummies. They wake up and they start asking the awkward questions. Now, every decision that you make, it carries weight, and I love this about this game. Now, it's not just the kind that crushes heretics. One wrong move and your precious troops will just be reduced to scrap faster than you could say, "Blessed be the Omnissiah." Basically, it's grim. It's clever, and it's absolutely dripping in atmosphere. Think Indiana Jones. But if Indy worshipped data cables and the booby traps shot lasers, but the lasers were the sizes of buses. I don't know where I'm going. Now, if I talk to you briefly about its key features, you've got one of the best bits of Mechanicus is basically getting to upgrade your tech priests, swapping out squishy human limbs for holy bionics forged from the blessed metals of the Omnissiah. It's like if Warhammer meets Robot Wars, and you're the one deciding which bits get chrome-plated with hundreds of customization options. Honestly, there are so many. You build a squad that just perfectly matches your playstyle, whether that's cautious strategy or just full-blown praise the machine god and then charge the shit out of everything energy. And all your big brain decisions, they come from aboard your Arc Mechanicus. Think of it as like your floating cathedral / battle cruiser / HR department for robot priests. Now, the choices you make up there, they don't just affect the next mission, but they can actually change your entire ending. So maybe don't just click yes to everything. Out in the field, you'll then be using the Mechanicus Augmented Cognition. It's basically Wi-Fi-enabled intuition to scan ancient tombs for data, secrets, and the occasional horrifying awakening. Every bite that you collect can give you a tactical edge, or you get killed. It's a coin toss, really. Now, the stories, it's penned by Ben Counter. Now, he's one of Black Library's finest, and it shows. It nails that Adeptus Mechanicus vibe, part fanatical zeal, part science fair from hell, all wrapped up in a plot that kind of makes you question whether machine spirits might actually be judging you personally. But what's the plot? So millions of years ago, back before the Emperor had even thought about getting his sandals dusty, the planet of Silver Tenebris was home to basically a dynasty of Necrons, proper ancient metal royalty. Now this lot, you had like an overlord at the top with a full court of wonderfully cheerful types surrounding him. Now all of them had legions of shiny death machines at their command, and just to make the place extra cozy, there was also a horde of flayed ones lurking about, led by the ever-charming, lovely neighbours, really. Now, after the War in Haven business, the original galactic punch-up between the Necrons, the old ones and the pretty much everyone else who owned a laser, the Necrons decided they'd earned a nap, right? So they tucked themselves into stasis tombs deep underground, and they went into what's politely called the Great Sleep. The planet, it became like a tomb world, which is 40k speak for like haunted nightmare, but with metal skeletons. If we fast forward a few dozen millennium years, and humanity it's in like its infinite wisdom, and now it decides to settle the place. They call their little outpost St. Eckhard's Hope, which in hindsight, well, it was optimistic. Now, contact with the wider Imperium cuts out after a couple of centuries, and shockingly, it turns out they've all been massacred by waking Necrons, a bit of like a, oh dear, moment. Now, a few brave, or maybe just plain stupid explorers later, they stumble onto the tomb entrances, and they start poking around, and they naturally trigger another awakening. Cue mass slaughter, Necrons everywhere, and the planet slipping back into creepy silence again. In the 41st millennium, along comes Magos Explorator Isaac of the Adeptus Mechanicus, because apparently someone at Mars looked at the history of the total planetary extermination and was like, yeah, let's give that a go. He sets up shop to nick some archaeotech and then poke the Xenos ruins, armed to the teeth, and smug about it. Now, he actually does manage to hold his own for a while, collecting combat data before they inevitably just go sideways. Now, he sends his findings back to Mars, encrypted in such a way. Why is there someone outside making that noise? I'm so sorry. How inconvenient. Anyway, sort of in such a way that only someone who's personally fought those Necron war forms can unlock them, which in the 34th millennium is kind of 31st millennium is kind of like the 40K's version of like the password is swordfish. Unfortunately, the warp decides to eat the message for a few centuries, because of course it does, and he gets properly like annihilated before he can tell anyone how it went. Now, eventually, in the era of Indomitus, the message finally arrives on Mars, like cosmic junk mail, that's centuries late, and it lands on the desk of Magos Dominus Faustinius. Wow, being the practical sort. Now, he assembles a crew, fires up the Ark Mechanicus, and then he heads off to investigate. Good thing too, because no reinforcements are coming. Now, the Mechanicus are stretched thinner than like a Cadian regiment on Morale Day, and with the Great Rift really just tearing reality in half. So Faustinius and his lot, they're just on their own, facing the ancient Necron dynasty that's been cranky since before the stars called. And then, now this ties into like what we talked about earlier on in the video, we enter Mechanicus II, where we have Vargard Nefashar, who is one of the galaxy's more formidable undead war ladies. Now, she wakes up from her millennia-long beauty sleep to discover that a bunch of red-robed humans have moved in, redecorated her planet, and started chanting about the machine god. Now, as you might imagine, she's not amused. Cue the full mobilization of her Necron dynasty, all clanking on ancient grudges and weaponry that really should have stayed buried. Now, meanwhile, on the other side of the galaxy, our boy, Faustinius, he gets summoned once again. The poor bloke can't even enjoy a quiet moment of like data prayer before someone tells him another tomb world has gone bing. Now, he brings the might of the Mechanicus to bear, because if there's one thing these guys can't resist, it's meddling with technology that they absolutely should not touch. But what follows is a galactic scale war of just cold metal hatred, part Holy Crusade, part robo-revenge opera. Now, the Mechanicus march to reclaim ancient knowledge for their glory of Mars. The Necrons rise to exterminate the fleshy sort of interlopers who dared to scuff their polished floors. Both sides are armed with teeth, both convinced the Omnissiah, or whatever equivalent godly algorithm they fancy, is on their side, and neither particularly inclined to admit that they might be the bad guys. But this time, there's more at play than just two factions trying to out-grimdark each other. Something else is watching. Something older, something stranger, infinitely worse. The war between logic and legacy is kind of about to spiral into something that even the machine gods most faithful, they can't calculate. And the galaxy, as ever, hangs by a thread thinner than a servitor's sense of free will. Now, the Mechanicus II conflict isn't just another tomb raid. It's the grimdark sequel that we deserve. It's equal parts tactical brilliance, cosmic humour, and probably like we really shouldn't have touched that. It's shaping up to be equal parts nostalgia, new chaos, and that special kind of 40k misery that we all just secretly enjoy. The demo is out now. It's free. No excuse. It's probably just going to take up all of your evenings for a weekend. It's going to take up your weekend, okay? Accept it. Tell your partners now. And hopefully the soundtrack delivers, because you know, if it even comes close to the first game's absolute banger of a score, well, I'll be the one in the corner with my eyes closed, just nodding solemnly to the sacred hymns of binary destruction. Anyway, I'm only going to implore you one time to please do all those things you need to do to support my channel, and I hope to see you in the next video.